Session 1 that will be talking about defense procurement policy, which will be chaired by Senior Partner and Global Head for Aerospace Defense, Roland Berger, Manfred Heder. I request Mr. Manfred Heder to kindly come on to the dais.
So thank you very much for the invitation, especially to you, Mr. Chandrasekhar from NASCOM, to you, Mr. Krishnamoorthy from ESA, and Mr. Vidya Shankar, also from ESA. We're very proud and very honored to be here and also to have been able to conduct the study that my colleague, Mr. Gangal, presented a few minutes ago, together with you, and to recommend some policy recommendations to the government of India. Special greeting also to Mr. Saraswat from NITI Aayog and to Dr. Pillai from ISRO. But most of all, I'm happy to be here and to chair this session together with a very distinguished panel, and I would like to introduce the panelists to you. First of all, Brigadier C. Sharma, whom I hope is in the room already. Please come up, Brigadier. Brigadier Sharma is the President and Director of Axis Cades, an engineering service provider. And let's give a big hand to Mr. Sharma. Our second panelist is Mr. S.M. Valdia, who is Executive Vice President and Business Head of Godrej Aerospace. Welcome. And last but not least, Anup Vittal, who is Managing Director of Safran Engineering Services. The topic of our panel session today is the new DPP 2016. And to be very honest, I'm very proud and honored to be here because it's quite a special thing that is happening in India. Yeah? I mean, you're trying to build a defense industry. I'm not saying from scratch, there's some good basis there, but from a fairly low stage of maturity, if I compare it with other parts of the world, especially with some of the more, I would say, advanced defense players in countries like the US or some of the European countries, we have a very mature industrial setup of OEMs and different layers of tiers who closely work together and which have a long experience in what needs to be done, also in interaction with the service. This is historically not really the case in India, yeah? And the push is there to do it now. But what is kind of peculiar, you're in a situation where I'm afraid to say you cannot learn so much from others. Because if you look at, I would say, the maybe best practice examples around today of industrial setups in the world, as I said, in the US, in Europe, yeah? I mean, these industrial setups have been created some 50, 60, some 100 years ago. So I would say the know-how to build these things is kind of lost. Yeah? And also times have been changing, of course. Yeah? So you are in for something new, for quite an exciting journey. My company, Roland Berger, who some of you may know, is one of the leading global management consultancies in the world. We have some 50 offices around the globe, and aerospace and defense is one of our key industrial sectors we are looking after and we are servicing. And especially in India, due to the situation I just described, it's one of our key focus areas. We're supporting both government and Indian industries but also foreign industries in trying to make the defense manufacturing transformation, which is currently going on here, happen. And to be very honest, looking from outside of India onto India, this is really the place to be. A place where, as I just indicated, some unprecedented things are happening in the field of defense manufacturing and transformation to something, I would say, world-class kind of defense manufacturing capability. I'm seeing a strong willingness in this country and a push to create this world-class kind of indigenous manufacturing base, especially under the Make in India initiative, and now the DPP, which is kind of trying to support this. Yeah. I'm also seeing, and I've a lot of discussions with industry representatives here. I'm seeing a lot of interest of private industry to get engaged in the defense sector and to take over new responsibilities like managing programs for which they typically have not been prepared in the past. So it's quite a challenge. And I'm also seeing a regulatory framework that continues to evolve, and I think DPP is one example of that. And that kind of tries to keep the balance between making sure we establish an industrial base here in India, while still keeping foreign suppliers motivated. Since a lot of your defense base in the past has also been built on foreign supply. Yeah. All in all, I think it's a very dynamic environment that is pushed ahead or being pushed ahead fast. And it is also leaving a great deal of uncertainty among the industrial players as to where and how they should invest. I think that's going to be one of the keys of our discussion later on. And I can tell you, this can also be observed from the perspective of a consultant like Roland Berger. We're seeing an unprecedented rise in demand for consulting services in this industry in India, be it to work out strategies in light of changing market requirements or also changing regulatory frameworks. Yeah? So how do I need to position myself in the future? What does DPP mean for me? Yeah? Be it in the field of implementation, yeah? On a wide variety of topics, such as offset management, for example, vendor identification or development, yeah? Or establishment of, I would say, good processes and good practices in the aerospace and defense industry. Like, for example, program management. How do I set up and manage effectively and efficiently a program, which is, as we all know, a very complex matter. As a matter of fact, just to underline this, India has become the single biggest national market for aerospace and defense consulting services in our firm, which I believe is an accurate reflection of the ongoing transformation we are seeing in this country. Dr. Krishnamoorthy earlier on pointed out the 72 billion defense electronic opportunity that is lying ahead of you, up for grabs, I would say. Yeah? And I think much of this discussion today will be about how can DPP, the new DPP, support you, us, to actually capture this opportunity. Yeah? So let's have a look at DPP 2016, which was issued in April this year. And if I look through it, I would say there's a few key objectives that it's trying to achieve. One, and first of all, in a way it's supporting the overall global Make in India initiative, and it tries to provide clearer incentives for indigenization of both technology development and manufacturing in India. Secondly, and I think from a practical point of view that is very important, if I look at the important backlogs we're seeing in Indian defense procurement. Secondly, it strives to achieve faster execution of defense procurement procedures. Thirdly, it is also trying to provide routes to procure equipment with more enhanced performance parameters. So not only go for the cheapest solution, but the one that the services really need. And another objective, which is currently being still hammered out to some extent, is the enablement of strategic partnerships. Strategic partnerships which could be key on several aspects. One, providing scale to this industry, and that's one learning that you can take from looking abroad. Scale is what matters in the end if you want to have a strong industry. But two, also will enable you to build some kind of clusters, and clusters again will sort of enrich each other and provide the necessary scale. However, and that is also something which may sound a little bit peculiar when you look at it from foreign eyes, this is already the fifth procurement policy, defense procurement policy in the past 5 years, after the DPPs that have been issued in 2006, 2008, 2011, 2013. So is this too much good we're trying to do? Or is it just, I would say, a sign of the dynamic environment we're in, and that we're sort of still trying to calibrate each other? So while we're still waiting for the comprehensive release of DPP 2016, which will, I believe, provide a number of important details and clarify or further clarify such key topics as, for example, the strategic partnerships, or the definition of what is an Indian vendor under the new Buy India route. There's already a certain number of questions, and that's certainly not exhaustive, that appear to me of being quite fundamental, and that are certainly worthwhile to be discussed in our round today. And some of these questions can include the question on the fact, will DPP 2016 actually effectively manage to speed up the procurement process and deliver to the services in time what they need, and help you to deliver goods before they become obsolescent? Will the envisaged strategic partnerships, as well as the preferential treatment that is being given to small and micro enterprises, allow us to build an industry with, I would say, the necessary innovation power, as Dr. Saraswat mentioned earlier on, but also with the necessary scale that is required to have world-class performance? What, on the other hand, will be the impact on foreign suppliers that have put high hopes in this country, that have made important investments, and that may get the impression today to be somewhat on the back seat, which doesn't necessarily contribute to the reputation of India as being a trusted business partner? Have we altogether found, with this DPP 2016, the right balance between timely procurement on one hand, the practical aspect, and the more strategic aspect and long-term aspect of developing a sound industrial indigenous base for defense manufacturing in India? And last but not least, and it's usually those points which matter most, as the concepts seem to be quite clear. Last but not least, how will DPP be implemented in practice? Is the right institutional capability there, in place today to deliver it? Is there a plan for it to be put in place? I think these are some of the questions we may want to look into together, and our distinguished panelists will give their view on the topic in a first round that I will do with them, and then we'd be happy to open the floor to your questions, which we would like to then discuss with you, and we'll take the session from that.